Welcome to another episode of Woman Witness Podcast, The Stories at the Well. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of women that are out there making a positive difference, making an impact in their lives and their families and the community around them. Today, we have a special guest who is not only a mental health advocate, but also a survivor of domestic abuse and domestic violence, living through post-traumatic stress disorder and PTSD and complex traumatic stress disorder. I want to welcome Rachel Smith to the well today. Rachel, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. We're looking forward to it.
Good. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing a little bit about you and hearing a little bit about your story. When I seen your information come across our desk, I really honed in on a lot of different things, and especially the topics that you want us to talk about, which is PTSD and CPTSD. I'm going to try to make sure I get those right, but you're going to tell us a little bit more about them. And also hearing a little bit about your background, which I think that a lot of women can be able to relate to. Introduce yourself to us. Who are you?
I'm Rachel. Like you said, I am a survivor of CPTSD, which is like complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So what that means is that you've had a series of traumatic events that repeated over time. And so now instead of it just being correlated to one event, it's correlated to multiple events around the same type of trauma. So it's a little bit more complex. Sometimes it can get confused with like bipolar or different things like that. But really, when you delve down into it, it's all these events that just compiled.
Which makes a lot of sense. Which definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can even hear a lot of that stuff of things that even I battled with in my past. I can't wait to hear more about that. I think I would love to chime in on that. Tell us a little bit about, I know you just told us a little bit about what PTSD and CPTSD means, but tell us how you became an advocate in this field.
So it was trial and error, to be honest. I became an advocate in it kind of by being pushed by my support system to do so as part of my own healing journey, being more vulnerable about what happened to me because it was hard for me to even get out of the situation I was in because I felt like I was embarrassed, even though it wasn't me doing the things. But that's what happens when you're a victim of that type. And I didn't want to keep being called a victim. So it's just finding a way to use it as a healing tool for myself and hopefully help someone else too. So I ended up getting diagnosed actually last year, where I went to a place that's called Center of Excellence, and it's for firefighters and those who serve within various fire departments. And they actually work with you through PTSD and substance abuse and any type of issues that you may be going through. And it's specific for first responders. So it's really good to get that hands-on trauma therapy that really is needed. And you also work hand in hand with a psychiatrist who's able to really break down things and help you get through it.
I like that. And I love, number one, always getting in an environment where you can get help and begin to unpack that. Now, if I heard you say, you said complex, right? So it meaning you said it repeated itself. So can you tell us a little bit about like what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What was the thing that actually that you said, okay, you know what? I need to be in this environment to get better. It wasn't just, okay, don't tell the story. You tell me.
So really it was two of my friends that broke that broke that straw for me. I had gotten to a point to where I began to abuse alcohol really, really badly. I needed it to get up. During that time, I was in an abusive relationship with my ex. I didn't know really how to get through the day. I have a young child as well. So trying to keep it together for my child, but then still having to deal with not being able to trust somebody, being betrayed all the time, being lied to and manipulated, and just all types of things. It really changes your psyche. So when it got to a point to where it actually got to a point where my friends made the call for me. And I was like, look, this is enough, because they had kind of seen me change, or just like as going from one way to a whole nother way. And it was like, we can't let you do this. Like we're making that call. You don't really have a say so in it. We're going to pack a bag and this is what it's going to be. So that's how I ended up going.
Well, kudos. kudos to your friends and your support system, Rachel, because I just spoke with a young lady, and her episode will be dropping, and she was a survivor of domestic abuse or domestic violence, excuse me, and being able to have that support system and those friends who are able to pull on you and say, hey, you know what? I'm jumping in. And it can be scary trying to jump in because, I mean, Rachel, you could have been like, y'all betrayed me, and and y'all in my business. It could have went the other way.
It was
Well,
going that way for a little
that's
bit at first. That's what they were like, look, nope. We just it's you don't have a say so anymore. Like it
yeah.
just is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I think we need to talk more about this. You talk about being a first responder. And I will tell you this. I was so blessed. I was a part of a leadership academy here in my county where I was able to go and sit in a first responder seat. I sat in the dispatch office and I was taking in some calls, and I wasn't taking in calls at all. Let's be clear. I was listening to those who were taking in the calls, and I was there for about 2 hours. Kid you not. I left drained. I needed a nap, a vacation. I did not know. All I can do is just like hug, wring the neck of these women. And I sat with women and a couple of men too. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is a day to day. And there's one call after another, one tragic call, and I would like need a whole break just to process what just happened. I could never even imagine having to take another call after hearing someone possibly take their last breath, um and walk them through that. So anyways, I'm venturing off and carrying on about myself, but when I seen this come across and you talk about the PTSD and the CPTSD that you even experienced being a first responder, I really want you to talk to us about this and talk to us about why you feel that it's so important to be able to take that time and be able to get help.
It's really important because honestly, when you really do the research, the statistics for suicide within the first responder realm and civilian realm is actually significantly higher. It's almost by 30% higher. So it's really, really high. A lot of stories, of course, don't get talked about, which you don't really want to talk about that part of things. But it's also sometimes, unfortunately, the culture is become a culture of where you signed up for it or you looked at as weak if you can't handle it, or if you start to feel a certain type of emotion, or if it starts to go into your personal life because they try to say work-life balance. But to be honest, like that is your life. You literally live there, part of your life.
Yeah.
So you see a lot, you deal with a lot, and they try to have certain resources for you, but the support to encourage you to use those resources is honestly where I've seen it lack worldwide, especially like within the
Mm.
United States with other firefighters that I've actually spoke to. So it's always either they can't get the resources, management looks down on you if you get the resources. Then when it comes time to want to promote or something like that, they might go back in your file and see, oh, well, you had this type of mental problem, but it's okay. It was because of a call and I decided to get help instead of become addicted to some pill, addicted to alcohol, some form, like any type of addiction. Gambling is a big one too. And you find ways to try to cope, and that's what everybody around you is doing. So what are you going to do? What everybody around you is doing? It's just something that really has to be addressed, but it's getting in. So that's actually, I'm no longer with the fire department. Now I'm actually working from the outside in, which has been very fruitful so far.
That you found your purpose. Can you talk to some of our listeners, if you feel comfortable talking about your experience and what kind of was like the part that really gave that trauma when you were a firefighter and the event that happened to you?
I guess the one that still kind of affects me to this day. So I have a fear of the dark, and it's because of
Mm.
this particular call. So it was me and my partner. I was on the medic. We had responded to this call. Scene was safe. It was a domestic call. We
Mm.
were told scene was safe. We had the victim on with us. The victim says, "Hey, I just want my purse," and my partner was like, "Okay, I'll go get it for you." We're thinking there's plenty of police down there. They're telling us scene is safe, so we can kind of act accordingly. So I'm
Mhm,
sitting in the back of the medic with the patient, and my
mhm.
partner gets off to go get her purse.
Mhm.
Well, as my partner's walking down, all of a sudden I hear this commotion, and she tries to chime on the radio, but like barely, all she could really say was like gun, and then it clicked off. So she had to hurry up and hide. So I had to call the signal 13, which for us means that we're
Yeah.
in danger. So
Oh,
it shuts down our radio, like the radio waves, so that way we can communicate directly with dispatch and not get interrupted. He made it all the way down to the medic, had was just barely getting the door open where I could see the gun, and the cop thankfully was like right behind him. But it scared me. Like, no, I didn't get shot. But the thing is that when you get that close, my son at the time was only 4 months old, and I
yeah.
was just, and it scared, like from that day on, just being alone, being like, even if they say the scene is safe, I still
Double
was
check.
asking like for extra help. Like it
Yeah,
kind of made it a little bit harder to focus
yeah,
on the job. I was jumping, so that was
yeah.
one of the times.
Oh my
But
god.
I've been attacked by patients. I've had to where I've had to have like physical therapy done on one of my shoulders because of being like things can happen. A lot of things
Right,
can happen. You never know what you're dealing with, but that's
right.
why you need to have resources and encouragement of these resources, because people will say, "Oh, well, we do have EAP, we do have employee assistance, like we do
Mhm,
have this," but you're
mhm.
not encouraging, everybody to do it. It's like, "Oh, well, if you do it, ha ha ha," and that's
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and I can only imagine how traumatic that may have been. I've worked and this is by far not at all comparing the two, but I worked in banking for a very long time and been involved or been in the bank during a robbery. Thank goodness it wasn't anything, too heavy, no gunpoint or anything. And then at the time when there was, we had the bulletproof windows, but still, I tell you now, if I walk into a bank all the time, my eyes are everywhere. I didn't know who's doing what. Ooh, this person looks suspicious. And I'll be saying, I'm like in my head, this is the trauma that I have because I experienced that. And so here I hear you saying so loud and clear, when am I supposed to turn that off? How am I supposed to separate the two? That's why I love the work that you're doing, and which is why I want to talk to you about the how critical it is to address that stigma surrounding mental health within these communities. How are you doing that?
So what I'm doing right now is I've been working on a case study. So
Mhm,
I've been blasting out anonymous surveys to first
mhm,
responders all around the country, trying to get their particular input as far as their zones, what they feel like they're missing, what they feel like they need, and what they think would actually help them. So that's an
mhm,
ongoing case study that I've been doing for about 2 months now. I'm
mhm,
just trying to make sure I reach as much as I can. My latest business venture, I just started my holistic care. Once I launch that website, that goal is to be a huge resource for people to just to be able to go to and have a therapist on standby, have a psychiatrist on standby, have somebody that they can easily just talk to. Even having a peer support, but the type of peer support is other jurisdictions. So if I call in, I wouldn't get my peer from the state of Maryland. I might
yeah,
get somebody from Georgia. So you really know what you're saying is anonymous. We do
yeah,
have peer support within the department, but do you really know if it's anonymous or not? You hope
right.
and pray that it is, but
Mm,
nobody from California and Maryland. Like, if I can call to talk to that person anonymously versus somebody that may know me or know the call that I was on.
I
So it's
love
really
that.
just creating all the resources. I'm going to be partnering with a
I love that.
couple natural holistic practices that's in the area as well, and they're going to be donating some of their services and time as well. So it's pretty coming along, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I love that. Okay, you jumped ahead of me. But since we're here, I want you to definitely put that out there because I think that what you're doing is a great idea. I mean, I can actually envision it in my head and I can see you even partnering with, other local therapists in the area, just places like a hotline, kind of like what you were saying, where they call and anything that I can do to help and support you, I will. And I think that you can really partner with some really good organizations who would not mind being a part of this. I think it's definitely needed. And I think it's needed when I'm going to go back a little bit. You talked about work life balance too, because it's hard to come home and have a conversation with your significant other about what happened on the job. Because one, you want to forget it. Two, you don't want to, go into details. I have friends who, confide in me and, talk about, how do I separate that? How do I separate the two? And to have that hotline, I think would be amazing to just come say, "Bleh," and not worry about the judgment. Okay. We talked about how to address the stigma, which you said it's just creating an amazing environment, which I think is great. And I also want to talk about how can this stigma like affect survivors of domestic violence. Like if I'm suffering at home with something, and then I come, or even let me just go a little bit deeper. If I'm battling things from my childhood, right? And things that I haven't dealt with, things that I kind of pushed to the side. And then now I'm in the a different environment, like a work environment, right? And now it's what double. So that goes to that complex. So can you talk to some of our listeners who may be in different fields, maybe not just first responders, who may be dealing with something at home currently or in the past? Can you talk to them about how to break out of that? And I know you said you had intervention, but now you're working on something to help people come and get help themselves. How do I take that first step towards getting help and saying, you know what, this is heavy?
That first step is acknowledging what's happened or what's happening to you. It takes a lot just to acknowledge that something happened to you and that it was traumatic for you. So sometimes a lot of us may not speak up and say, "Oh, well, I know such and such had their situation was way worse than mine." Speaking firsthand for my domestic situation, I thought that mine was not that bad compared to what I've heard of and seen of. I was like, "Oh, no, this can't be that. It's not even, nah, it's not that bad." So you never talk about it. You know it doesn't feel good. You know it doesn't feel right. It's like making you hurt. It's painful, but you think that you see somebody else going through it worse, so you downplay your own self. And that's actually how you end up holding on to all of that, and it just builds up. And you start getting triggered at things that you wouldn't even think that somebody would be triggered at. So it's just acknowledging that what happened happened, or what is happening is happening. Doesn't matter how big you think it is or how small you think it is. It is a fact. A fact is a fact.
That's
So it happened, or did it, or it is happening, and that's what it is. You have to like state the facts first.
State the facts. I love it. Hold on. You said a lot, which I think is so good, especially for some of our listeners who are listening, who probably, may be in a situation. One, it's okay for things to not be okay.
Mhm. That's the
Right?
title of my book.
Wait, what, say it again?
So I'm working on my book, and the title is "I'm Not Okay."
Oh, she's
Yeah.
getting ahead of me. Okay, this is exciting. This is so exciting. Okay, you got to get that book written. Okay, there you go. And I love the fact that what you said. One, I never thought about this, but writing it down. One of my biggest Bible verses I love, and I put it everywhere, is write the vision, make it plain. Even writing 16 books myself, I wrote it down and I made it plain because I wanted to help other people not have to endure the things that I went through. I've went through a childhood of abuse, and I can see where that CPTSD went. So even as I got older, certain things I would allow to happen because I'm like, oh, you know what? It's not that bad. Even when I was in it, but I was a child, right? I didn't know that it was that bad. And I can see definitely how that can be able to present itself in different situations in our lives. I've seen it in my own. And once I got to the point that I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's bad. I started to write it down and I'm reading it back. I'm like, oh, this is bad. And I love the idea of what you said. Write it down, or take a look at it, write down, exactly what it's going through. And there's no one that can validate how good or bad your situation is. And it's okay for it not to be okay. I love that. Girl, you better write that book. I'm not okay. That's really good. Yes, girl, you better write that book. Okay. Um, okay, so I wanted to address some issues around how once you make that first step and you go and you begin to seek help and you know that it's not okay, how important is it for a victim who's not only suffering at home, but then now going into a work environment and it's double? How important is it to be surrounded by the right people?
Whew, it's real important. I have seen where some friendships were not serving for me in my healing process. It was more of it served for the unhealthy coping mechanisms. And then I had some friendships that were really good for me, but I didn't appreciate them at the time
Mm,
because I didn't really understand that. Like when you're in the middle of going through a situation, sometimes it makes you lash out on the wrong people, or to protect yourself within where you're at or at home, you
mm,
lash out on people who don't necessarily deserve it. So
mm.
in my healing, it's been going back and rectifying some of that. And thankfully they've been like really, really supportive and understanding. And it was more of a, we just happy that you finally out. We just happy
Yeah,
that we got our friend back. So it's
yeah,
it's realizing that you can face it. It's like at home, knowing you can start to kind of tell, like when you're getting real busy, to not have to come home, I would either pick up shifts or take every single class you can think of. So I wouldn't have to go home. But then I'm stressed because I'm in all these classes and I can't go home and study. So I'm trying
yeah.
to study at work, but I'm busy. So
Mm,
you end up running yourself into the ground, literally.
mm.
But
Busy being busy.
yeah, it's finding a balance and not
Yeah,
being afraid when sometimes that first therapist or that first person may not be the right person for you, but it's
yeah.
okay. Just go to another person, keep trying until you find that person where it feels like you're talking to a friend.
Yeah, somebody, yes, absolutely. Somebody who truly has your back and willing to say, you know what, this doesn't look right, this doesn't smell right. And I hear you so loud and clear. I think it's very, very important. And you said something that I think even a lot of us need to take a look at and make sure that you're not avoiding that place. I think even of course, not avoiding home at all, if at all possible. My grandpa used to say, all a man has really is their home. It doesn't mean it like a man, but all you have is your home. So if you can't go home and find no right, you can go and find peace. It's time to figure out what's going on. It's time to start cleaning out those closets and turning things around and seeing what the issue is. So I love what you said about that and bringing light, because I do believe, like, a lot of women, a lot of us, and since it's a platform for women, I'm saying, and men too, but a lot of women, we avoid certain things because we don't want to deal with it. I know I'm guilty of that. I used to do it all the time. I didn't want to deal with it. I put it off. If my closet is messy, I'm closing the door. I don't even want to look. I go in like, kicking to get in there because I know it's a hot mess in there. But, we have to take that time to clean it out and get in there. So I'm glad you said that.
The process does suck, but it's
It
worth
does.
it. Like it's honestly worth it. Like you'll notice just your smile is a little different, and just to have a different smile
Mm,
is a big accomplishment. Just to maybe you're not a huge smiler, maybe you always look like you're ready on go, but maybe one day you notice like, huh, I feel like I got dimples. Oh, okay, I
mm,
had dimples. Like
right.
it's like be thankful for those moments because it
Yeah.
is a victory.
And I think it opens up the door for you to really begin to walk and move in your purpose, which is what you have said. And where I want to go to next is talking about your business, because I hear even the difference between you telling us about one job and then moving into working from the outside, as you said, helping first responders that way and building your business and your dynasty from the outside. And I hear your passion in it. So I know you told us a little bit before about your business, but if you don't mind, diving into the holistic part. And I love your page and I love all the different, it's very relaxing, very soothing when I went to your page. So tell the ambiance is amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about your thought behind that and what you want to really accomplish?
Of course. So on my page, I post a lot of times like my herbal remedies that I do. So as part of my business, I will be the herbalist that's on staff.
Hmm.
So my job will mainly be to use like naturopathic medicine
Hmm.
to help with the healing process. So using herbs, using tinctures, making different remedies specific to people's in like all that's going on
Hmm.
inside. Because you have to fix like if you think about it. So for me, for instance, I had a lot of gut issues when I was going through that chapter of my life, through that abuse chapter of my life.
Hmm.
But as I've been out of it, I've been like having healing in my gut, and it's just been like so
Mm.
much better. And so once you
Hold
start
on,
healing inside,
can I ask you something for those who are listening? When you say you begin having healing in your gut, so what do you like cramps, constipation, or talk like
yeah. So I ended up getting diagnosed with celiac, which I had
okay,
never had.
I
It's
don't
not
know.
hereditary. It's a wheat allergy. So,
Mm.
and I had never had any issues my entire life with
Hmm.
this until maybe the last couple years. And so I had to actually stop eating anything with gluten in it. So that started helping because I would cramp like after I eat anything, it just the cramps would come. It didn't matter what it was. And so I actually started dropping weight and then putting on a whole bunch of weight. Like it's like I couldn't get it right. So finally once going through like the healing, I did have to get a couple infusions, like pharmaceutical wise, just because that's how far my stomach was messed up. Now I've been able to actually been testing negative for celiac now. So it's interesting because so what they think it was is just, it was a hormonal imbalance that caused it during that time. And if you think about the stress hormones and the different things that go on in your brain, you get dumped all that cortisol, all that adrenaline, and so guess what happens? Everything else gets out of whack. So
That okay, I hear you so much right there, and I want to we're going to continue to talk more about it, but I think this process is so important because I think we try to fix things and just a quick fix, right? And I've been having a lot of women on who, been they're diagnosed with different types of cancers and even we were talking about colorectal cancer, and that's with the colon, right? And so when we think about it, and I'm no expert by all means, but I believe when we start in our digestive system, right, and kind of get that working. So I love the different remedies you were talking about because I think that once you get that whole system flowing, you can stay clear, if at all possible, of some of these diagnoses, if you will.
like your body
Right.
actually works daily to heal
Right.
itself. So as long as you're not putting a whole bunch of like toxins into your body,
Mhm.
your body can actually start to heal itself. I by no means tell people don't take their prescriptions,
Right.
but my goal is to eventually get you off of those prescriptions. Some medications you can make lifestyle changes and make certain changes within yourself and be able to either lower your dose to the lowest dose possible or come completely off. So I
Yeah.
try to come at it from that angle. And I mean, I make a lot of different things. Right now, the biggest one is my sleep tincture I have, and that seems to be working pretty well. So
Say it one more time.
it's a sleep tincture. So
Talk to us
it's,
about that.
yeah, that one, it has like valerian root and different stuff
Mhm.
like that. But you just drink maybe about a shot of it before you go to bed, about 30 minutes before you go to bed. And the herbal in it is actually helps you relax.
Oh, wow. I love that. I think the older I get, the more mature I get, if I can say. I don't like taking all those, medicines.
Mhm.
You remember back in the day, right? When you were younger and you get cramps and, you go to your pamper and you go to your
Yeah.
Advil and all that. That stuff eventually is not good for you.
Mhm. I
And
think I went looking for Pamprin maybe
I
about
know, right?
and they took it off. I was like, "Wait,
Right?
that's not
I,
right."
I drank this stuff.
Like,
No
that's the one
wonder.
that worked.
Right. Right. And I could not agree with you more. Even so I love this whole approach. I think about even when I was in the hospital, I had three C-sections and I wanted the bare minimum. Don't give me all that stuff because I need to be able to move and hold my baby. So I'm all about doing different methods to avoid taking all those medications, which I think that's what I love. And so you have on your page, one of the things that really jumped out to me, my mom and I, we love grapefruit. Love grapefruit. Tell us like what are some of the special ingredients or what does the grapefruit actually do for the body?
So grapefruits it can actually do a whole lot. So
Yeah.
for that particular post, I was using it for immunity. It also is a really
Mm-hmm.
good detox too. So if you actually want to put like if you cut it up and leave the skin on and blend that all together, you can drain it down and drink that, and you actually get more fiber from the skin itself from the
Really?
grapefruit. So you get a lot more fiber. So if you need help with like constipation or being more regular, that's a good way. It's definitely a lot of fiber within like that white meaty part that you get. The
Mm-hmm.
zest, a lot of herbalists will use just the zest from the skin
Mm-hmm.
inside of like, some of their tinctures to help cut the acidity taste.
Yeah.
So like with alcohol, like depending on if you use alcohol in your tinctures,
Mm-hmm.
the grapefruit kind of cuts a little bit and it doesn't react as much with certain herbs. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's really big all around for
Yeah, it is.
and the juice, like again, just the juice itself, it can help a lot with like heart health,
Mm-hmm.
blood flow within your body. So it's pretty good.
Oh, very interesting. So are you selling these drinks, is it? Or
So I will be once my website is up, I will be
okay.
making like actual drink shots. I
Mhm,
will be doing alcohol free. So for my
mhm,
sober clients
mhm,
and everything, instead
mhm.
of using alcohol for my tinctures, I'll actually be using vinegar or glycerin. So that way,
Mm.
those who are sober don't have to, worry about it. They'll have something that they can use as well.
Okay.
I'll be making teas. I currently do make teas. I do have a couple
Mhm.
clients that will just call me up, hey, this is what's going on. I need a blend. So I like if they call me, I'll make something specific for them. And then that's typically how I'm getting my clients right now.
I love that. Well, I love that. If you make a tea, I would love it. I used to take this tea that a girlfriend of mine used to have, and well, she used to sell, not tea, it was a coffee, and she used to sell, and it was amazing. It was literally the best thing for my digestive health, my muscles, everything. It really helped me a lot. So I would love to I'd be interested in when you get that going, looking at some of your teas. Um, and so tell us, Rachel, where we can find you, where we can locate you, where we can, I know you're working on that website, but if for some of our listeners who are listening right now, tell us where we can follow you and find you.
So right now, the best place to follow me is on Instagram. My handle is super simple. It's just Rachel is healing. It's no special spelling or anything. It's just literally Rachel is healing. On there, I have a broadcast channel where I try to post at least once or twice a week. Something encouraging to those who need like a slightly more anonymous space. So in there, it's mostly survivors and we'll kind of bounce back forth ideas, or if somebody's going through something, that's kind of where we'll communicate for right now. And then on my page, I'm always posting either something about my personal journey or something that I found that may encourage somebody else. So that's kind of the best way to find me at the moment.
That's amazing. And her page is very encouraging, very inspiring. And I definitely would recommend that you follow it. And I know that you don't have everything going yet with as far as that outreach channel that you're working on for the first responders. But when, right? I'm
Mhm.
correct in that. Yeah. But when you do, please, please, please reach out to us. I would love to put that out there so people can find out how to support you. If is or will you be making a non for profit so they can donate?
So right now it'll be for profit.
It'll be for profit. Okay. All
Mhm.
right.
Because
Okay.
my goal is to get scholarships and everything for, so that way people who can't use their insurance to go to the Center of Excellence, we can provide scholarships so that way they can still get the care they need.
I love it. Goodness, Rachel, I love your vision. I love what you're doing. I love the difference in the impact that you're making. I love the fact that you're sharing your story because far too often I think that we hold our story and we like, we don't need to tell anybody. I'm past that stage in my life, but it's only when you go back and you be a witness to what God has done for you in your life and encourage someone else. I think that's really what matters, and that's really where you begin to work through your pain and turn it into purpose. So, Rachel, let me give the floor back to you. I want you to leave our listeners with some words of encouragement to take with them throughout the week and throughout their journeys. What do you have to say to them?
I would say that it's okay to not be okay. Even if we take it back to Bible times, Jesus did not have people coming to him that were okay. They had to surrender and acknowledge that they were not okay. And that's how so many miracles, that's how so many blessings were able to happen just with admitting and being humble enough to say we're not okay. So my goal is for you guys to just admit that first, if you're not okay, you're not, and that's okay. We can keep going forward and we can heal from there.
Rachel, that was good. That was so, so, so good. Ladies, if you are listening and you're blessed by this episode and you're not okay, take it from Rachel. She shared with us today that it's okay not to be okay. And we want you to definitely take this episode, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with someone who may not be okay. And just say, hey, just listen to this. We ask that you like, you subscribe, follow us on social media. I will leave Rachel Smith's information in here so you can follow her, stay up to date with the wonderful things that she is doing in the community. And ladies, perhaps, just maybe perhaps, you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time, bye.